Hey folks, Troubletcat here. I'm playing some Battlefield 3 today. Shit, apparently I'm playing BF3 Black Screen Edition. My least favorite edition of Battlefield 3, and here I thought I bought the limited edition with the Physical Warfare pack. Anyway, what we're talking about today is the changes made in the latest patch. I will note before I get into this too much, these are sort of my thoughts on it at this moment in time. This may change. The patch has only been out for not even for a whole day yet, but I spent a bit of time playing around with it last night, just sort of playing normally, and then today I spent a fair bit of time playing around with the weapons and stuff like that that had the most major adjustments, and just trying to figure out what I thought of where the balance was at, because I mean there were some bug fixes and some overall user interface adjustments and stuff like that. You'll notice, for example, now over the mini-map you can see letters inside the squares, so you actually know which fucking objective is being captured without having to, like, I'm really glad they added that. It only like a year. They finished the spawn screen glitch again. Only took them like a year, but I mean, let's not get mad. This stuff are things that, maybe should have been fixed or in the game a long time ago, but they're here now, so let's just be happy. Since the game is getting better all of the time, and I really do think that applies to this patch, like actually most of the other patches. Generally speaking, I always feel like the game feels a little bit better after a new patch comes out, which is a good sign. It means that predominantly the game is improving. DICE are not going in the wrong direction with their ongoing support, which is of course what we like to see. So aside from some minor UI improvements, stuff like that, and a few bug fixes, this is predominantly, like most of the patches so far, predominantly a balance patch. I will note that the game balance, the weapon balance in particular, hasn't changed as much in this patch as it has in previous patches, like the one that rebalanced all the attachments, for example. Changed the game a lot. What the fuck? Why are we losing AO? You know what? I'm not even going to worry about it. I'm just going to keep going to the offices here. So, yeah, unlike, for example, the patch which rebalanced all the attachments, this is a fairly minor change. Most of the weapons and stuff like that stayed pretty much the same. For the most part, it's quite similar, but there were a few pretty big changes in this that did affect the gameplay, and those are the things that I primarily wanted to focus on and speak about in this video. So, probably the one that the community has been haranguing DICE the most about and made it in this patch was the M16A3 nerf, or let's say the M16A3 rebalancing. I don't really like the word nerf. It implies that the weapon has been made as effective as a nerf gun or whatever. It implies the gun's been made terrible, which in the case of good balance changes, the weapon is still effective. It's just, anyway, I don't really like the word nerf. So we'll talk about the M16A3 rebalancing, shall we? I'm pretty happy with what they've done there. I feel like the M16A3 has a bit of recoil now. In fact, a fairly noticeable bit of recoil in full auto fire, particularly if you're running the old sort of standard loadout, which was a heavy barrel and a foregrip. There is a bit of noticeable recoil to that now, which I actually quite appreciate. I like my guns having recoil, and aside from that, it still fills the same role it did, which is to say it fills a sort of all-around role where it's pretty good at any kind of assault rifle. Oh God! Any kind of assault rifle range, which is nice. It's what you want to see. It's still in the same role. It's still a good weapon. It's not been nerfed. It hasn't been, made so weak as to be pointless or anything like that. I'm very happy with where it's at now. I think it's about on par with guns like the F2000, the AEK, the other good high-tier, high rate of fire assault rifles. I feel like it sort of sits on the same level as those. There is a bug with the M16A3 where it's not being affected by suppression properly, which DICE is aware of and have only been made aware of recently, so that didn't actually make it into this patch. But aside from that, the fact that it is a little bit glitched, the M16A3 I think is pretty well balanced now. So the biggest buff, the biggest buff on the assault kit, on the other hand, came to the M416, which you can see me using here, and there's a lot of concern, and in fact I felt this concern as well, that the M416 didn't really need a buff, and it's going to become the new M16 now, is something people were concerned about. Fucking Recon, man, he should have just shot me, but no, he had to run up for the knife, and now he's fucking dead! Anyway, we shouldn't be too mad about that, considering it worked in my favor. Let's move on. So, the concern was that the M416 would become the new M16. Yeah, maybe. I don't know. It's definitely much easier to use than it used to be. It does have a little bit lower rate of fire and a little bit slower reload than the M16, though, so that's worth keeping in mind. I mean, it doesn't quite have all the super advantages the M16 has, but it is now very controllable in terms of recoil, very easy to use. I used to run, what do you see here? I used to run this 3.4 times sight and a flash hider so that I could, you know, keep a good control of the recoil at medium range with it. And now I'm running a heavy barrel, and I find that in terms of recoil, it's pretty similar to what the gun, maybe a little bit more than what the gun used to have with the flash hider, but the point is, it's very, very easy to control now, very accurate, very easy to use weapon. Do I think it's too powerful? Not really. I think it's very strong. I'm not convinced it needed the buff, but I don't think they took it too far. I'd say it's definitely one of the better guns on the assault kit now. Yeah, I don't know. Only time will really tell if I end up, you know, feeling that it's super OP or whatever. I might join a squad that holy shit, all these squads only have a few people in them. I hate being in a squad where the leader doesn't set up attack objectives, but, you know, for the sake of actually having some people in my squad, I guess I'll change up. Anyway. Right now, I don't think they went too far with it. It's very strong. I don't think it's gonna need to be reduced. I mean, yeah, I wouldn't have cared if they hadn't buffed it, but it was a pretty minor buff. I think it's okay, is what I'm saying. So those were probably the biggest things. You might have noticed if you read the patch notes, there was a mention to reload time adjustments for a lot of guns, like the FAMAS and stuff like that, some of which had very long reload times previously. I played around with a few of those. From the ones I tried, those were very, very minor adjustments and aren't going to make a big difference. Like the FAMAS, for example, its load time has been really reduced, but it's still really fucking slow to reload, so those reload time adjustments were not a major thing, if you're wondering. A few other guns that had big changes. The carbines had some pretty decent rebalancing, particularly the G36C and the... Stop living, enemy. Particularly the G36C and the SG553, both of which I thought were underperforming a little bit before the patch, are now a lot better options, and I'm pretty happy with what they've done there. Along with the M4 being, you know, rebalanced made a little bit weaker alongside the M16, this should mean that it's a little bit more of an interesting choice which carbine you're going to run with, because, I mean, before there weren't very many good options. Now there's a few more options on the engineer kit that are pretty solid weapons. Aside from that, pretty big balance changes in the PDW department. They made the UMP45 and the M5K and the PP2000 in particular, all those a little bit stronger. I'm glad they did that, actually. I felt like all those guns were pretty terrible. You were better off either, you know, using your actual kit's weapon or using a shotgun. There was no real reason to choose most of the SMGs, with the exception of the MP7 and the P90, both of which, the MP7 assuming you're running extended mag, so you have 400 shots, both of which are sort of very high rate of fire, very large quip weapons. So there was no real reason to choose the sort of more slightly slower, slightly more restrained weapons. The M5K was just in general kind of poopy to use. So I'm pretty happy with what they've done with the PDWs. Overall, in terms of weapon balance, I think this patch is a real winner. I think this is the most balanced the infantry weapons have been in BF3. I'm really satisfied. As I said, there's a chance the M416 might be a little OP. We'll see how I feel about that in a few weeks. You know, right now, I think it's okay, but I'm open to the possibility that it may turn out to be fucking retardedly OP. Jet, please don't crash it. Jet, why? I'm actually going to get the fuck out of this helicopter now. It should explode when it hits the ground, so we'll go ahead and giving them a helicopter. Anyway, I didn't hear an explosion. That's not good. It should have exploded when it hit the ground, considering how high up I was. No, it just kind of landed over there. Well, it's on fire now. Okay, it's fine. Everything's fine. Good. Good! I'm really happy with where the weapon balance is at right now. They also did some changes to the handguns. They made the 1911 a little more powerful, the Rex a little more powerful, the 93R, and the 44 Magnum a little worse. I really didn't think that the 1911 or the Rex needed buffs, and the 44 Magnum, if anything, I would have buffed the 44 Magnum, not nerfed it. I feel that the 44 Magnum is generally massively outperformed by the Rex in most ways. I mean, 44 Magnum is better at long range, significantly, but generally speaking, I wish the 44 Magnum was a little stronger than it was, and I don't like that they reduced the rate of fire on that, but, you know, the pistol balance changes I'm okay with. Again, you know, I don't think those weapons that got buffs needed buffs, but fuck it, it's... they didn't, you know, make any of the pistols horrendously OP or anything like that, and the 93R nerf was very badly needed. The 93R was pretty fucking ridiculous before, in my opinion. So, point is, weapon balance I'm very happy with. There were a few changes to vehicles in this patch as well, and particularly in regards to air vehicles and also the Stinger and Igla anti-air launchers. I'm really happy what they've done there. There was the Stinger and Igla buff is non-controversial. People generally agreed those launchers were pretty useless. They're still not amazing, but I was actually, you know, able to use them to shoot down helicopters now when I was playing around with them, whereas previously you were a hell of a lot better off with a dumbfire rocket trying to get a direct hit than actually using an AA missile, because you were just really unlikely to actually get a hit on them with an AA rocket. So, happy about that. Jets, still very hard to shoot down with those man-portable AA launchers, but a little bit better of a chance now, which is good, because before there was pretty much none. I'm the squad leader, but I can't assign orders. That's kind of fucked up. Anyway, this guy wants me to give him ammo, apparently not realizing I'm not a support player. Let's move on. The big sort of controversial change in terms of where vehicles are concerned was helicopter gunners can no longer equip flares. Pilots can still equip flares, but the gunner can no longer equip flares. And that's a big controversial thing. A lot of people were saying, oh shit, but helicopters were too weak before, and now they'll be unable to stay alive, and shit, and we'll all detonate horribly. Which is a valid concern for a lot of... I do see a lot of helicopter pilots and a lot of people trying to fly helicopters and failing really badly and getting shot down constantly. Particularly if the enemy team has a lot of anti-air, good jet pilots, stuff like that. It can be hard to stay alive in a helicopter. Yes, I will grant that. It could be hard to stay alive before sometimes, and that will still be the case now. The problem is that I agree with this nerf, well, this change, nothing really being changed, like something's not available anymore. I agree with this change because there was previously, there was a setup you could use with attack helicopters where you were pretty much invulnerable to any kind of guided rockets. You could still be hit by dumbfire rockets, you know, but and tank shells if, you know, person with the dumbfire rocket into the tank was a good shot, but I mean, it's pretty hard to shoot down attack helicopters and stuff like that with dumbfire munitions, unless they're flying really low and really slow, which they shouldn't be doing most of the time. There was previously an attachment loadout that made you pretty much invulnerable to guided rockets, and essentially what that meant was that there was one ultimate attachment or upgrade loadout for helicopters, and I personally don't believe there should ever be an ultimate combination of attachments, unlocks, upgrades, whatever the fuck you want to call them. I think that it should always be an interesting choice as to what you're going to use. You know, there should be a trade-off, there should be a balance between, you know, this is good. It makes sense, right? You don't want there to be just one thing that is win-all, and the fact is, there was before. And people sort of argued, it required so much coordination to be invincible before that they should have just allowed people to be rewarded for that level of team play, and I can understand that point of view. The fact of the matter is, it didn't require any special level of coordination, though. It required people to have the right loadout, to know what the correct loadout for the pilot seat and what the correct loadout for the gunner seat was, and there was one correct loadout for each seat before. And it required them to use those and not be completely retarded. That's not a special level of teamwork. That's just playing the game competently and correctly. It's not... It wasn't like... I mean, I had both these loadouts on. I was running them before, and I'd often get into a helicopter and find the person in the other seat had the other correct loadout and knew approximately what they were doing, and you end up being ultimately pretty much invulnerable. It didn't require enough coordination or teamwork or anything like that to deserve being invulnerable while you're achieving that. You know, you need a pretty... For it to be okay, for something to make you essentially invulnerable, it needs to be fucking hard to pull off correctly. It needs to require a lot of coordination, teamwork, and focus. And there should still be something that can beat it that, you know, again, requires a similar level. I mean, I guess in this case it'd be like 7,000 people with AA launchers aiming at this game. But the point is, I didn't agree that with the idea that there was ultimate loadouts, and there definitely were. So I'm pretty happy about this. For those people who were finding helicopters really hard to survive in before, who were not using this particular setup, not much will have changed, to be honest. You'll find it equally difficult for the most part. And for those people who were completely fucking unstoppable when they got into a helicopter going 50 and 0 and just pretty much couldn't be shot down no matter how many people were trying to on the other team. Why am I going back towards the bullets? Please stop, TDC. Those people will no longer, they'll now be able to be stopped. You know, they'll still be people that were that good and understood to that extent will still be difficult to take out without coordination, without a lot of effort from the other team. They just won't be completely invincible anymore. So, I know I ranted about that a lot. That was a very controversial change, though. A lot of people were saying attack helicopters are going to be useless now and all this crap, and I felt like ranting about it a lot because it was a change that I agreed with and I think was a good move on DICE's part, and I think improves the game a bit, because, I mean, previously, a lot of times, on some maps in particular, for example, Wake Island, it just became unstoppable attack helicopter raped the game, even if, you know, I would be playing with 3 of my friends, and we'd all be working as engineers, and fucking one guy with a soft lamb, and we'd all be trying to shoot down this helicopter, and because of the combination of unlocks, it couldn't be done, pretty much, and so that is gone now. And I'm not mad about it. Pretty happy about it, in fact. Actually, I don't know if I have that cab, I'll probably detonate if I do. So that covers the major changes in the patch. PDW buffs to some engineer guns, nerf to the M16, buff to the M416. The only gun that received a pretty big, or that received a sort of change that I haven't really tried is the MG36, which I'm looking forward to trying out, because previously I felt like, again, the MG36 was kind of underperforming in its class, and that's had a little bit of a buff. Looking forward to trying that out. But, you know, aside from that, I'm really happy with where the weapon balance is at, as I said, and I'm happy with what they've done with the vehicles and the AA launchers and stuff like that. In my opinion, this is, pretty much, yeah, this is the best state the game's been in since release. It's a good patch. There are still some things, look, I mean, as you guys know, there are some larger problems I have with the game. The netcode, and I'm not a fan of the fucking lens flare everywhere, and the shit flying everywhere, and the dust, and that you can't see a goddamn thing, Captain, and those are issues that aren't going to be fixed, and I accept that, essentially. So, I mean, in terms of the patches we could have received, yeah, I'm pretty damn happy with what they've done. Those issues I have with the game as well, I don't want to get into talking about that again. Let's just say that, although I consider them fairly serious, they don't stop me from still liking the game. They stop me from thinking the game is a 9.5 or a 10 out of 10, but they don't stop me from liking it. Anyway, I think that pretty much covers the topic. If you were wondering what I thought of the patch, and therefore what you should think of the patch, because if you don't agree with me, you're fucking wrong, you now know. And so, if you have any thoughts about the attack helicopter changes, weapon changes, etc., let me know in the comments below. I'm always curious to see, because, I mean, a lot of times, you know, I'll call something and then later have to admit I was wrong. For example, the M417, it didn't receive a nerf in the patch, but certain attachment loadouts, the suppressor for the M417 and the foregrip, were reduced in effectiveness, and to be honest, although I complained a lot about the M417 being really OP when it first came out, I still think it might be a little bit too powerful, but the fact of the matter is, it has not shown itself to be a disruptive, like a major problem in gameplay. It hasn't shown itself to be overly popular, or... Yeah, guys, I'm gonna have to admit it. The M4, I pretty much, I called that one wrong in a lot of ways. I may still feel that the M417s are a little bit on the strong side, but it hasn't proved to be a major gameplay problem like I thought it probably would be when I first saw it and, you know, when I was complaining about it. So, you know, I call things wrong sometimes is the point, and I'm always, therefore, happy. And then there were, in fact, when I started bitching about that, a lot of people saying, no, TTC, it's fine for these reasons. And I was like, yeah, I'm not, but anyway, the point is, let me know what you guys think of the balance changes and stuff like that, because I'm always interested to see what other people think about the direction the game has gone and changes that have been made and stuff like that, and I'm even open to the possibility that I might be wrong, although I'll never admit it until it's been proven. Anyway, thanks for watching, guys. As always, let me know what you thought of the video. Leave a like or a comment or a dislike if you fucking hate me. And until next time, Troubletcat, spitting wildly.